Have you ever felt like there's more than one version of you living inside your skin? One day you're bold and unstoppable, the next you're quiet and unsure. Sometimes you're the life of the party, overflowing with laughter and charm. Other times you're withdrawn, observing everything from a distance. It's as if different characters take turns steering the wheel of your personality. And maybe, just maybe, you've noticed it but couldn't explain it. Think about it. Have you ever heard yourself say, "I don't know what came over me," or "that wasn't like me at all"? Those moments aren't random, they aren't slips. They're glimpses into a deeper truth. That you're not just one fixed self. You're a blend of inner energies, instincts and patterns that each have their own voice, story and desire. You might call it a mood swing or a reaction, but often it's an inner character stepping forward to handle life in their own unique way. These parts of you show up in relationships, in work, in crisis and in joy. One wants to nurture, another wants to run. One seeks control, another just wants to be held. They're all part of you, and yet they can feel like strangers, showing up at the worst or best times. But what if you could meet them? What if you could understand these inner voices and make peace with them, instead of being confused or controlled by them? What would life look like if you knew which part of you was showing up in each moment, and why? This isn't just about self-awareness. It's about unlocking the mystery of who you really are. Because inside you lives a cast of powerful inner characters, and it's time you met them. Have you ever felt like there's a hidden script guiding your reactions, thoughts, and decisions? Something just beneath the surface that you can't quite name, but feel deeply. You walk through life assuming you're one person, a consistent identity, a stable personality. But then certain situations bring out parts of you that surprise you. A voice that speaks with confidence you didn't know you had, or a quiet fear that pulls you back when you thought you were ready to leap forward. It feels like someone else is living inside you, making choices, expressing emotions, and shaping your experiences. That someone else isn't random. In fact, there are many of them. Inside each of us exists a collection of patterns, ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that come alive depending on what's happening around us. Sometimes you step into the role of the caregiver, offering support and compassion to others. Other times you become the rebel, breaking rules and pushing boundaries. You might be the visionary in one moment, dreaming big and inspiring others, and then become the skeptic, questioning everything and trusting no one. These roles feel natural because they've always been there, part of the deep inner landscape of your being. Most people move through life unaware of these inner shifts. They just call it having a good day or feeling off. But when we begin to explore this hidden inner world, we discover something powerful. Each of these rules or characters serves a purpose. Some are there to protect us, others to push us, some to connect and some to warn. They all have a reason for existing, and they all carry a piece of our truth. Understanding these inner characters isn't about labeling yourself. It's about gaining clarity. It's about realizing that your personality isn't a single unchanging thing. It's a dynamic, evolving system of energies that, when acknowledged, can become powerful tools for growth, healing, and personal transformation. The more familiar you become with these inner roles, the more consciously you can navigate life. You begin to choose your reactions, understand your emotions, and act from a place of wholeness instead of confusion. This journey isn't about changing who you are, it's about meeting who's already there. It's about shining light on the unseen drivers of your behavior and emotions so you can stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. Within you lies a full cast of characters, each waiting to be known. Most people believe they're in control of their actions, their choices, and their emotions. But what happens when you look back at a conversation and wonder why you reacted so strongly? Why you felt a surge of rage, or a wave of helplessness, or the sudden urge to flee? We often chalk it up to stress, or being in a mood, but beneath the surface, something more complex is at work. Different parts of us are responding, acting out roles that have been shaped by our past, our fears, and our desires. The problem is that most of these inner parts remain unconscious. They operate in the background, influencing how we speak, how we love, how we lead, and how we fall apart. When we don't know who they are or why they act the way they do, we feel fragmented. We say things like, "I don't know what came over me," or "That's not who I am." But the truth is, it is part of who we are, just a part we haven't yet come to understand. This lack of inner awareness creates conflict. We may set goals only to sabotage ourselves. We may long for connection but push people away. We may seek peace but start fights. These contradictions leave us feeling confused and disconnected from our true selves. We think we lack discipline or strength, when in reality it's just that. Different parts of us are pulling in opposite directions. Without a clear understanding of these inner dynamics, we repeat patterns. We find ourselves in similar relationships, similar arguments, similar disappointments. Life starts to feel like a loop. We try to change, to grow, to be better, but without knowing which inner forces are influencing us, our efforts remain superficial. Another challenge is that these inner characters often compete for control. One wants freedom, another wants stability. One wants recognition, another fears attention. When we're unaware of them, the loudest one wins, often not the one that's best for us. We live reactively, letting emotions guide our actions instead of understanding where they come from and why they arise. This is not just a psychological struggle, it's a spiritual and emotional one too. It's about a disconnection from the deeper parts of ourselves. Until we begin to identify and engage with these inner forces, we remain at the mercy of them, living half awake, wondering why peace, fulfillment, and clarity seem just out of reach. Within each of us lies a rich inner landscape filled with distinct voices and energies, sometimes harmonious, sometimes conflicting, that shape our experience of the world. These inner characters aren't imaginary. They are real parts of our psyche that influence how we think, feel, and behave. Understanding this complex system can open doors to deeper self-awareness and personal growth. Imagine your mind as a stage where different players take turns stepping into the spotlight. One moment, the protector stands guard, alert and ready to defend you from harm. The next, the dreamer emerges, inviting you to envision possibilities beyond the limits of your everyday life. At times, the critic might appear, scrutinizing your actions and filling you with doubt. And then there's the innocent, longing for safety and simplicity in a world that often feels overwhelming. These characters have developed over time, shaped by our life experiences, upbringing, culture, and even inherited influences from our collective human history. Each serves a unique purpose. The warrior helps us face challenges and overcome obstacles. The caregiver inspires compassion and nurturance. The trickster brings humor and creativity, but also shakes things up when we get too stuck. None of these parts is inherently good or bad. They simply represent different facets of the human experience. Learning to identify these voices within yourself is the first step toward mastering them. When you recognize which character is active, you gain insight into why you feel a certain way or react in particular situations. For instance, if you find yourself retreating from a difficult conversation, it might be the inner child seeking safety. If you're pushing hard to succeed, the inner warrior is likely leading the charge. Awareness helps you see these dynamics clearly instead of being swept away by them. Integration is the next stage. Instead of denying or suppressing certain parts, you invite them to work together. This creates a sense of internal harmony and balance. You might nurture the dreamer's creativity while grounding it with the protector's caution. Or you may allow the rebel to voice dissatisfaction while tempering it with the sage's wisdom. This cooperation among your inner characters leads to a more conscious and authentic way of living. Over time, this process transforms the way you relate to yourself and others. You become less reactive and more deliberate. You can navigate life's complexities with flexibility, compassion, and strength because you understand the rich cast of characters that dwell within you and how to bring them into dialogue. This journey isn't about erasing conflict or contradiction. It's about embracing the full spectrum of who you are. There comes a moment when the chaos inside becomes too loud to ignore. Perhaps it's during a heated argument when words spill out faster than your thoughts, and afterward you're left wondering why you reacted so strongly. Or maybe it's a quiet evening when you sit alone, overwhelmed by an inner storm of conflicting emotions. Part of you wants to take a leap forward, another part urges you to retreat, and yet another whispers that none of it will work anyway. That's when something shifts. You pause, not to suppress the noise, but to listen. In that moment of stillness, you begin to recognize the patterns. You realize the voice that always speaks up when you feel threatened is the same one that protected you as a child. The one that's pushing you to achieve more, work harder, prove yourself. It's not just ambition. It's an old part of you that learned love had to be earned. The gentle, nurturing voice that shows up when others are in pain, it's the part that feels deeply, even when no one notices. This recognition becomes the turning point. For the first time you see that you are not just your thoughts or your emotions. You are the space that holds many voices, many stories. You are not broken, you are layered. You are not lost. You are deeply inhabited by meaningful parts that have been trying to protect you, express you, guide you. And suddenly, rather than judging yourself, you begin to feel a strange compassion for these inner characters. You don't silence them anymore. You begin to speak with them. You thank the one who kept you safe all these years. You comfort the one who always feared abandonment. You ask the silent one to come forward and share what it knows. This dialogue becomes sacred. It's not about control, it's about connection. In that moment, the conflict inside begins to soften. You stop fighting yourself. This is the key moment, when the inner war turns into inner understanding. When you stop choosing one voice over another, and instead create a seat at the table for all of them. That's where wholeness begins. That's where your life begins to align, not because you've changed who you are, but because you've finally met all the parts of yourself you had ignored, misunderstood, or buried. And now they begin to work together. As we journey inward, we begin to uncover a truth that many spend their lives avoiding. That we are not singular beings moving through life in a straight line. Instead, we are made of many parts, each shaped by different experiences, memories, needs, and dreams. These parts are not fragments to be hidden or fixed. They are the living fabric of who we are. Recognizing them doesn't create confusion. It brings clarity. It explains why we sometimes feel torn, conflicted, or uncertain. It reveals why we change depending on the situation, the people around us, or the pressures we face. The process of meeting our inner characters is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who we truly are. These roles we carry, the warrior, the nurturer, the thinker, the child, the guide, are not masks. They are real expressions of our inner life. They show up to help us cope, to protect, to express love, or to seek truth. They often developed in response to deep needs, some still present, some long outdated. By learning to recognize which part is active in a given moment, we gain the ability to respond with intention rather than impulse. This self-awareness is powerful. It frees us from cycles of confusion and self-sabotage. It teaches us to stop reacting blindly and start responding with purpose. More importantly, it gives us the gift of compassion for ourselves and for others. Because when we understand our own inner complexity, we become more patient with the contradictions and struggles in those around us. Life becomes less about suppressing the paths we don't like and more about integrating them into a fuller, more honest self. When the critic arises, we can hear its concern without letting it dominate. When the dreamer appears, we can welcome its visions by staying grounded. When fear knocks, we don't have to run. We can sit with it and ask what it needs to say. In this way, we move towards a more complete life, not one free from conflict, but one rooted in deeper understanding. The characters within us were never enemies. They were messengers, protectors, seekers, and storytellers. Now that you met them, the next step is to keep listening, keep learning, and keep building a life where all parts of you have a voice, a place, and a purpose. Now that you've glimpsed the inner world within you, a world filled with voices, patterns, and roles, it's time to take the next step. Awareness is powerful, but awareness followed by action is transformational. You don't need to figure everything out overnight. The journey inward isn't a race, it's a process of curiosity, honesty, and compassion. And it begins with one simple act: paying attention. Start by noticing the next time you react strongly to something, whether with anger, fear, excitement, or joy. Pause and ask yourself, who just spoke? Which part of me showed up? Was it the part that craves approval? The one that's always on guard? The one that believes love must be earned? Begin to give names to these characters. Write them down. Describe how they feel, how they speak, what they want. Get to know them like old friends you've forgotten. Create space in your daily life to connect with these parts. Journaling is one powerful tool. Meditation, voice dialogue, or simply having a silent conversation with yourself can also work. Ask your inner characters what they need, what they fear, what they wish you understood. This is not about controlling them. It's about building trust and allowing their voices to be heard. If you feel stuck, consider working with a coach, therapist, or guide who understands this kind of inner work. Sometimes having someone hold space for you makes it easier to hear what you've been avoiding. You don't have to do this alone. Above all, be gentle. These parts of you have been trying to help you, even if their methods haven't always been healthy. When you meet them with compassion, something shifts. Walls soften, insights rise, healing begins. You already have everything you need inside you: strength, wisdom, creativity, courage. Now it's time to meet the ones who hold those gifts. Your inner world is vast, rich, and ready to be explored. Don't wait for a breakdown or crisis to begin listening. Begin now. With openness, with intention, with the desire to live not as a stranger to yourself, but as someone who truly knows and honors every part within. Your journey inward is your journey home.